Hang tight, I'm on my way back. I'm almost there. Are you ready? Hi everyone, back for week 3's reading of Dragon Masters Rise of the Earth Dragon, written by Tracy West and illustrated by Graham Howells and read with permission by Scholastic Inc. This week we're reading chapters 9 to 12. Let's get started. Chapter 9, Whispers. And that's how to shine a dragon's scales. Griffith was saying later that week, remember, brush one scale at a time, no shortcuts. Rory sighed. When can we go out again? Drake was glad Rory had asked. They had been stuck inside the training room for 3 days. Drake liked learning about dragons, but he was used to being outside all day, every day, on his farm back home. He was starting to forget what the sun looked like. The wizard patted a tall pile of books on his desk. There's much for you to learn first. We will go out again soon, Rory. Then a soldier came in. He handed something to Griffith. The wizard smiled. Drake, a letter has come for you. Read aloud, Anna said. Drake quickly nodded to Griffith. Dear Drake, we are glad you are safe. We still don't know why the king brought you there. Can you tell us? Please keep writing so we won't worry. And thank you to your friend Bo for helping you to write to us. Love, your mother. Your mother sounds nice, Bo said. Drake's eyes started to burn. He held back the tears. Thanks, he said. May I send another letter to tell her about the dragons? You must not say anything about the dragons, Griffith said. The king's secret must be kept. The wizard stood up. Now, it's time to shine your dragons. Let's go. As they were leaving the training room, Rory ran over to Anna. She started whispering to her. Drake kept an eye on Rory as they walked toward the dragon caves. She has a sneaky look on her face, he thought. What are she and Anna up to? Chapter 10, Worm's Tale. Drake stepped inside Worm's dark cave. Worm opened one eye. I need to shine your scales, Drake said. He was carrying a brush, a basket, and towels. Drake looked at Worm's brown eyes. They're not shiny, he said, but I'll clean them anyway. Drake was still getting used to being around Worm. The dragon's head was as big as Drake. Worm could swallow Drake in one gulp if he wanted to. But something about Worm made Drake feel peaceful. Drake gently brushed one of Worm's scales. The big dragon made a sound low in his throat. Worm smiled and closed his eyes. You like that? Drake asked. Worm made another purring sound. Good. He cleaned Worm's scales one at a time. I kind of missed the onion field back home, Drake said to his dragon. It was hard work, but I loved being outside. Drake started to clean Worm's head. And I really miss my family, Drake said. He scratched behind Worm's ears, like he did with a cat back home. Then he felt his hand start tingling. He tried to take his hand off Worm, but it couldn't. It was stuck. Drake's eyes widened. He looked at Worm. The dragon was staring hard at him. Pictures popped into Drake's head. He saw the cave from his nightmare. He saw the explosion again, before Drake had woken up. This time, the pictures kept coming. Worm was trying to get out of the cave, but the other dragons were in the way. Then soldiers rushed into the cave. Each soldier's shirt had a gold dragon sewn on it. The king's soldiers? Drake asked. The soldiers wrapped Worm in chains. They dragged him out of the cave. Owie! Drake could hear Worm's cry. Then his hands stopped tingling. The picture left his head. Drake looked at Worm. Did that really happen? Did the king's men take you away from your family? Just like they took me from mine? Worm nodded. I'm sorry, Drake said. He threw his arms around Worm's neck. Worm closed his eyes. All his life, Drake had looked up to King Roland. But why would the king's men treat Worm like a prisoner? Wondered Drake. Maybe he isn't such a good king after all. The end of chapter 10. Chapter 11. A Noise in the Night. Good job cleaning Worm's scales, Drake, Griffith said, walking into the cave. Drake wasn't going to say anything about what Worm had shown him. Not yet. But he did have a question for Griffith. How did the dragons get here? He asked. The king's soldiers searched far and wide, Griffith replied. It's not easy to find a dragon. Most people have never seen one. But the king did not give up. His soldiers were able to capture these 4. But do the dragons want to come here? Drake asked. The king does not always think about what dragons want, Griffith said darkly. Now, come. It's time for supper. After they ate, Bo and Drake went to the room. Bo was teaching him how to write the alphabet. Bo drew a capital D and a lowercase d. See, says Bo. The big D looks like a dragon with a big belly. He drew a picture on the paper. Like Vulcan, Drake said. With a laugh, Bo laughed too. Moonlight glinted off Bo's dragonstone. It reminded Drake of something he wanted to ask Bo about. It's just, I thought I saw mine glow once, Drake said, when I was with Worm. That's interesting, Bo said. You should tell Griffith. Drake nodded. Tomorrow, he said. Drake wrote rows of the letter D before he went to sleep. He thought he would dream of D's, or maybe of Worm again. But just after he climbed into bed, thunk! Drake heard a loud noise. He sat up and saw 2 figures standing by Bo's bed. And that's the end of chapter 11. Chapter 12. A Sneaky Plan. The 2 figures turned around. It was Rory and Anna. What do you want? Drake asked. Go back to sleep, Rory snapped. Why should I? He snapped back. Drake was tired of Rory being so bossy. Yeah, why should he? Bo said. And why are you 2 here? Anna spoke up. We're going to bring our dragons outside while the rest of the castle's asleep. Do you guys want to come? You can bring Worm and Shoe. This is a bad idea, Bo said. No, it's not, Rory said. We're dragon masters. We should be able to take our dragons out whenever we want to. You have a point, Drake agreed. And I do think Worm would like to go outside again. Bo looked worried. What if Griffith finds out? He asked. And what if the king finds out? They won't find out, Rory said, so long as neither of you say anything. She looked them both in the eyes. Well, come on then, said Anna. Drake slipped on his shoes. He followed the others down the hall. The door to Griffith's room was open. He was snoring. Zzz. Rory put a finger to her lips. Shh. As he tiptoed past the door, Drake peeked inside. The wizard's long beard flew up every time he snored. Dragon Masters walked down the stairs. The guard in front of the training room door was asleep too. That's Simon, Rory whispered. He always falls asleep. They tiptoed past Simon and into the training room. The torches were not lit, so the room was black. Rory lit a candle, and she passed candles to each of them. Now let's get the dragons, she said, still whispering. They reached Vulcan's cave first. Rory opened the gate. Wake up, Vulcan, she said. We're going outside. Grumbling, Vulcan got to his feet, and Anna and Bo woke up their dragons. Drake went to Worm's cave. Worm, do you want to go outside? Drake asked. Worm lifted his head. His eyes shot wide open. He stared right at Drake. Drake got a strange feeling. Come on, Worm, Drake said. But Worm didn't move. He just stared at Drake. Is he trying to tell me something? Drake wondered. Rory, Anna, and Bo walked up to Worm's cave with their dragons. Is Worm coming? Rory asked. Suddenly, Drake froze. He heard words inside his head. Do not go into the tunnel. That's the end of chapter 12. And that's the end of this week's reading. Well, that was exciting. I'm wondering what's going to happen. I think Worm knows something. There's more to Worm than meets the eye. I think we're going to find out as we read the last 4 chapters and come to the conclusion of the Dragon Masters, Rise of the Earth Dragon. So join me next week to find out what happens. Bye.